I want to show you the tools that are available in Visual Studio and how working with these tools is really going to be transparent, or it's going to be transparent whether you're working against an Azure instance of an Azure SQL database or if you're working with an on-premises database.
We're going to take a look at two of the different tools that are available to interact with Azure SQL databases within Visual Studio. And if you've interacted with any SQL databases in Visual Studio, this will be pretty similar experience. We're going to do that. And by the way, if you are a database person, a SQL Server person, and you're used to Management Studio, the experience in Management Studio with an Azure SQL database is very similar to the experience you'll have with an on-premises version. That's really what we're looking at. Anyways, I'm in my Visual Studio environment, and again, this is the free version of Visual Studio, so I haven't really, this is not anything you can't just download and do. I have the Cloud Explorer open, and I am in my demos resource group, and then I have the database that I had created. And there's some things that I can do. I can open it in the portal. I can actually go to SQL Server Object Explorer. I can view some properties, but it didn't pull in the administrator login properly, so I can't pull that. All right, but some basic information, you kind of get a feel for what's available. And then I also have within Visual Studio the SQL Server Object Explorer. And I am going to just connect up to my database server. And it's got this this is 2015, nice little interface here. I've got browse, you can see local network, my connection into Azure, and there's the database that I want to connect to. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the password. And then, now what's pretty cool here is I haven't set up the firewall rule for this server to allow anything but services to connect to it. But since I'm going to Visual Studio and Visual Studio kind of gets it, it's going to say, okay, if you've got rights to do this, you can go ahead and add the firewall rule, which I do. And now I should be able to connect. Okay, so there's my connection to the server. And then once I connect to the server, you can see there's the database that I created. And I can look at the different components. And you can see I can look and see tables. There are no tables right now. I can add a new table. And I'm going to get a nice table designer. And I'm not going to go through the process of creating a table because that's not really the point. The point is that I've got tools in Visual Studio that are going to interact with an Azure SQL database in a way that is very similar, if not the same, as an on-premises database. So this tooling is going to make it much easier for me, to interact and again, to really treat Azure as an extension of the same kind of experience I'm used to in the on-premises environment.
What you just saw in Visual Studio, the same kind of analogy works in other tools as well, such as SQL Server Management Studio.